Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. This is the broadcast for April the 16th in the year of our Lord 2025, hour 2 at 2, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. James Edwards riding shotgun on the broadcast today. Well-known talk show host in his own right, thepoliticalcesspool.org. Check it out every weekend, live, Saturday nights, or on demand, anytime you like. thepoliticalcesspool.org. All right, this is very interesting. President Trump in the news, as always. I mean, it's almost frustrating that he's in the news so much, but hey, there you go. White House considers, quote, free plane tickets and money to incentivize illegal aliens to self-deport, theepochtimes.com. So the question is, are you for this, James, and what do you think?
Sam, I am so for it. This was actually my idea. I'm not saying, of course, that they got it from me, but I've been saying this for years, even before there was a Trump, that this would be a good idea to give them free travel back to wherever they came from, plus an incentive just to get it done. Because, of course, in the long term, I mean, it is you're going to have a loss on the front end on this, but in the long term, in terms of welfare and social services and all of the other things that they'll do that will be a drag on our economy and our way of life and our cities and our everything for however long they're here, lifetimes or even generations in some case. You're winning in the long run just from a purely financial perspective to get these people out, pay a little bit more up front for the long-term savings that could, frankly, are incalculable when you're talking about the number of people. Should it happen? Well, it shouldn't happen because they should have never been here to begin with. We should have never allowed the country to be overrun and had these unsecured borders. Well, not even unsecured. I mean, they were purposefully left wide open, and everybody just told, come on in, we're a flop house, and make us the third world too, please. But since that has happened, I think this is a solution that will at least further move the needle back to where it should be. And a lot of people will, I don't know what kind of money they're talking about per head, but a lot of people will take that for the instant payout. A lot of people are short-sighted like that. They'll take the instant payout, they'll be gone, and then, hopefully they can't come back. Now, this is where, again, I said before, this is where you'd have a problem with somebody like Rand Paul. Now, Rand Paul would never vote for something like this, even though it's in the best interest of the country, because it's going to be his principles. I don't agree with that. I think you always have to do what
I'm going to
is
put
the best
together my
interest of your
proposal
people.
that might get Rand Paul to vote for it. You ready?
Hit me.
Take the incredible idea, and let's just make the number like big per person. Let's make it $10,000 a person, James. Okay,
that's pretty big. Yeah, that's
fine.
All right.
So what?
Very
Hold
generous.
on. But then all you got to do is this: you got to look at the foreign aid. Let's say that we pay $100 million to foreign aid to the Mexicans. Okay, all you got to do is when you deport these people, say, hey, we're going to decrease your foreign aid, the amount that we've got to take to send back the thugs. Got to get rid of the clowns. Got to decrease foreign aid equivalent. So you can make the number as big as you want, James. All it means is when we run out of foreign aid money, it's done. And therefore we're going to, and so you could tie it to this and say we're not going to increase taxpayer expense at all over this. And now you might get people on principle like me who would vote against it to say, all right, if you're going to get rid of, 1,000 illegals and you're going to decrease my foreign intervention or foreign aid this much, to match it, you're not voting for more money at all. In fact, you're voting for smart things. You're getting rid of foreign aid and deporting people at the same time. Well, what's there's not to like, James?
Well, see, now that is the art of politics. You just heard a master class from Sam Bushman on an idea that is good in theory and good, just flat out good, but that might run into some problems in terms of its constitutionality. Of course, when you're doing something to harm the country that's unconstitutional, it always just seems to go through. But then you will have people like Rand Paul, and this isn't necessarily a knock, but he would vote against this, even though it would be in the best interest of the country because he's going to stand strictly
He
on
might, with my proposal, vote
principle.
for it, though.
Exactly.
He might just say, hey, it's not a penny more, and we're reducing foreign aid like we should be doing as well. And is it perfect? No, but you've got to look at things and go, are we going in the right direction, James? There's something to
I guess
that,
you could
too.
say you could say, well, they shouldn't be getting any foreign aid anyway, so let's just cut that off and still not vote for this. But, I mean, if you took off, from what they receive in foreign aid, you took off whatever it is, $5,000, $10,000 ahead from their tab and just start deducting every time. Because this is something Stephen Miller said. So Stephen Miller is just a real genius and is really one of the guys there who makes Trump and who makes Trump look good to his base. Stephen Miller is a guy who's with us on so many issues, but also has the political chops
because he's so spot on.
But he has the political chops to get things done. So it's just one thing to have the right ideas, but it's something else to be able to make it happen. And he's been able to. Yeah,
that's the difference between Stephen Miller and Sam Bushman. He's got the chops to get it done, and I don't. But I got some great ideas, James.
Well, I think if you were given the opportunity, you would have those chops. But nevertheless, Stephen Miller is a guy that I like very much, and he was just saying, not necessarily with regard to this proposal, but that one of the problems they've got is that these people run and they hide. So if you draw them out, if you put a little honey out there, and I'm not saying you're baiting a trap or anything, they would be willing. They would have, I guess, the agency to say, I want to continue to run, or I'll take this.
Or like-minded incentive. In other words, we're putting us all on the same side. We all have a reason for this, right?
Yeah, that's a good way. See, that's how you start selling things, because the Democrats are going to make it up to be like, the Gestapo or something. You're rounding up people against their will. But if you make it their idea and you give them a little something, and look, they're getting
I'm giving you the opportunity to get a start in your homeland, people. Come on,
$10,000 that you do not deserve for breaking a law. That is very generous, but it helps us in the long term too. It's a win-win-win-win-win all the way around, and these people are getting something, and then they'll be gone, and $10,000 goes a long way in some of these places, that's for sure.
Well, and I'm not saying it's the best plan. The best plan would have never let them come in the first place. The problem is we have them here, and the problem is we've got a ticking time bomb with the census coming up, and if we're not very careful, it's going to completely fraudulently change the electorate, because these people are going to be articulated or counted in the census, and it's going to change the game. And so we've got to do something. And I don't think we have a great choice. But here's the deal. We're too busy battling about stupid things. So CNN political commentator Scott Jennings, that used to be James Edwards, by the way. Now it's Scott Jennings, just so you know. But anyway, I digress. CNN political commentator Scott Jennings criticized Democrats for their plans to travel to El Salvador to advocate for the return of this, what do you call him, Kilmar Abrego Garcia guy. Democratic lawmakers led by, this is interesting, Senator Chris Van Hollen said they would travel to El Salvador in an effort to secure Garcia's, quote, release. Now, what I find interesting about this, James, is I don't think we need to argue with him. I think what we need to do is we need to push Chris. Chris, why don't you just go to that foreign nation, buddy, and advocate for their release? And if you're not very careful, they might toss you in the clink, buddy. You don't belong over there. You don't belong representing the United States. You don't speak for the president. You don't speak for the United States at all. You're just a clown senator. If you go there, you just might get tossed in the clink with Garcia.
All right. So 2 things about this. Very quickly, just a bookend to the previous conversation. That's something that sells politically, okay? Instead of Republicans dealing with bad press for going in and rounding up people, for the ones who come out. I mean, imagine the camera. What could the Democrats say when you got Pedro and Jose counting stacks of $100 bills as they smile and wait to board their Delta flight back to, Guam or wherever. Or not Guam, but that's an American territory, but, wherever, Honduras. So that's a good idea. That should be done. Now, for all of the for all the problems and all the issues that the Democrats or this Democratic senator could focus on, this is what he chooses to champion with his time as a representative of the people, in theory. And I think there's an old Greek word of advice that is, one is blessed if he can see himself the way others see him. And thankfully, the Democrats have never received that blessing to be able to see themselves as others see them. Because this is not something that is playing well at any level. Going to bat for, as we just said, the state of Maine is in a standoff against the Justice Department because they've chosen letting men play in women's sports as their hill to die on. That this is some courageous crusade. This going down here to El Salvador to advocate as a United States senator on behalf of this guy. They're making all the mistakes you would want them to make for them to become irrelevant for potentially generations. Potentially, it could go that way. It could go the other way, but there's a path where they become just a coastal party.
But look, what about these senators that just simply go across the pond and advocate in different countries for things against what our president has to say and against what the rule of law is and everything else? Do they have the right to just go do that?
Well, in some countries you wouldn't, that's for sure.
Well, in America, you shouldn't either, though. You swear an oath to the supreme law of the land, the Constitution, and I don't see anywhere in the congressional Senate responsibilities that says you can go to foreign nations.
Do you know what is great about America?
President.
Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
In the medical field, IT security is crucial. Our highly skilled consultants are HIPAA certified and have 20-plus years of experience servicing medical clinics, billing, and supply companies. We offer comprehensive endpoint protection, guarding your computers and servers against all stages of threats. And with our 24/7 monitoring services, you'll never worry about extensive downtime again. Ready to level up your IT support? Call 801-706-6980 today and discover how great IT services can be with managed IT services.
This April 19th, you're invited to a powerful celebration of American courage and independence. Join the Utah Society Sons of the American Revolution for a special event honoring the shot heard round the world, the moment that launched a revolution. Gather with us at the Utah State Capitol from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for a morning of inspiration, remembrance, and patriotic pride. Experience a ceremonial wreath-laying, hear live readings and historic reflections, and witness a black powder musket salute that echoes the bravery of our forefathers. Whether you're a student of history, a proud patriot, or just looking for a meaningful way to honor the past, this event is for you. Admission is free and all are welcome. Come celebrate the spirit of 1775 and the birth of American freedom. Visit UtahSocietySAR.org for full details. Let freedom ring. April 19th at the Capitol.
All right, Democratic Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen literally wants to go to El Salvador and supposedly free this Garcia guy. I think it's a clown show. Where in the supreme law of our land does it say senators have authority to go to foreign nations and advocate against our president, advocate against our laws, and be involved this way? If he's not very careful, he's going to be arrested by the El Salvador folks and say, hey, what if the tables were turned? What if it was in reverse? What if all of a sudden all these people from all these foreign nations came to America and rioted and said, we want to talk to the president, we want this, we want that. We want to create anarchy all over the world. It'd be insanity. It's got to stop. This is nuts on parade, and people need to call it out as such. James, you got a soundbite to articulate this for us?
Well, sort of. You're talking about advocating for things that are anti-American and even, having dual loyalties, which I think is where the tie is made here. So this is Thomas Massey, who you were just referring to a few segments ago.
I think he's doing a great job as a hero.
He is. He certainly is. And he is having a conversation here. It's just a 50-second clip with a host named Will Cain. This is obviously one of those MAGA-tiered online networks that are doing really great work. I mean, this isn't Fox News. This is alternative media. And this is the kind of conversation you'll get.
Taking center stage, baby.
Absolutely. So I don't know who this host is, but you're going to hear his voice first, and then you'll hear Representative Massey. Pretty interesting.
I don't want to see an Israeli flag. I want to see single loyalty to the United States of America. Tell me about the Dual Loyalty Disclosure Act.
Yeah, we swear an oath to the Constitution. And the question is, if you're a citizen of two countries, which oath are you taking more seriously? Or can you take them both seriously? Look, I would prefer that people with dual citizenship have to renounce their citizenship in the other country before they run. But at a minimum, we should do what the bill I introduced does, which is require candidates for federal office to disclose whether they have dual citizenship and which countries they may have citizenship in. That way, the voters can decide whether they should be able to represent the United States.
Our loyalty should be.
All right, so Sam, I think that does
He's
tie in
making
a
the
little bit to
same
what you were
point I'm
saying.
making, but he's talking about, because he's a representative, and so he knows about these acts, and he knows about the bill he put in the hopper and all that kind of stuff. But really, the point remains the same. Look, are you swearing allegiance to El Salvador? Are you swearing allegiance to an illegal? Are you swearing allegiance to a gang? Are you swearing allegiance not to the United States, not to your oath? Because in your oath, where does it give you authority? In the supreme law of the land as a senator, where does it give you authority to go ahead and go on foreign soil and advocate against our president? I mean, that's disaster, James. And if you go back to the Dixie Chicks of yesteryear, one of the Dixie Chicks, I think her name is Natalie Maine, spoke out against George Bush on foreign soil, and they had her head, and it ruined her whole career.
Well, interestingly, they are terrible. They're just called the Chicks now. You can't use the word Dixie, of course, and they ran. From
I celebrate
identity.
Dixie, and I won't back down.
Hey, me and you both, brother. In fact, that's what we're doing month long right now. Our Confederate History Month programming on TPC right now. But they are awful people. Those three who are just committed leftists and everything else. But ironically, they were right about Iraq, but that's another thing. But the point is, so you've got this United States senator. Now, how many constituents does a senator have? I mean, it's every voter in the state. It's not just the district; it's the whole state. And to use that time to try to go down and plan to go down to El Salvador on behalf of an illegal criminal. It just defies belief. So again, but that is the contrast between the two parties as it
get
stands
arrested
right
down
now.
there, James. You think?
I hope. I would love to see something like that. I mean, but I don't think they will, because he's like sort of advocating really on the interest of that regime and the people who came from there more so than the United States. I mean, I guess they anything could go in these in these third world countries.
The debate is about this person, right? Garcia or whatever, and who Garcia is. They make it sound like Garcia, this is his home country. They make it sound like he's just a family man and a good, honorable person. If you talk to the Trump folks, you talk to Tom Holman, hey, this guy's an MS-13 gang member thug, shouldn't be here in the first place. I mean, you can't even get the narrative straight of the facts, James.
Well, you're seeing it again, and you could say, well, how could they be that far apart? He's either at once an MS-13, thug, or he's a good
same way you believe in male, female versus transgender. It's so far apart you can't even talk straight.
The same thing going on right now with Carmelo Anthony. Becoming like some sort of a poster boy for justice. He stabbed Austin Metcalf, this high school track athlete, in the heart, killed him. Said immediately when he was apprehended, "It ain't alleged, I did it." And he's raising $500,000 and counting, and then all of the, frankly, the black community saying, we're out for justice. Or what is the justice? To let him just murder in cold blood and be set free? That's justice now. So it just goes to show. I mean, people can have just wildly different explanations and interpretations and narratives on the same person. It just defies belief that it could even operate in the same universe. But yeah, so he's an MS-13 gang member, or he's a good family man just out there trying to work the fields and provide a better way of life for his family. It's crazy. That just goes to show, though, Sam, how far the divide is in this country. I am glad Trump is elected. I am glad Trump is the president. But this has done nothing to span the divide. And of course the divide will never be spanned, because you cannot have unity in a Tower of Babel, and that's where we are now.
You can't have unity when you've got these parties too. These parties basically politicize everything and make it a complete divide, and you can't go against the party as much as you can't go against the candidate, and so on and so forth, and that's part of the problem. But I got good news, James. You ready for it?
Well, I'm just going to say very quickly, politically, you're not going to span the divide because of the parties, but culturally, it's just impossible, because it goes down to just the outright internal makeup of your
take
your
the
DNA,
transgender to make your point.
faith.
You either double down on that lie, or you double down on the truth, which is male and female created to them, and there's no middle ground, James.
Well, that's it. So, yeah, the divide hasn't been spanned. It never will be. You cannot have that in a multicultural society where you don't have the same heroes, faith, ethnicity, nothing,
fundamental beliefs.
Nothing is
sure.
Nothing is the same. So,
all right, I got good news, and I think everybody would be for this. The problem is they won't, but here it would be the hope, right? Around 22,000 internal IRS revenue agents, they call them service employees is what they're called, have accepted President Trump's buyout offer. They're calling it quits. So 22,000 took the buyout offer and walked. I wish that was 44,000 or 88,000 or 106, whatever, 72,000. I mean, let's make the number bigger, but I'm just saying 22,000 did that. Think about just, providing a buyout offer and saying, let's reduce the size and scope of government. And Donald's, far from perfect because he's getting challenged by judges and Congress is derelict in their duty and not rising to the occasion. But Trump's done his very best to reduce the size and scope of government. And government bloat is out of control. And you just think of the IRS, 22,000 gone. At the Institutes of Health or what, I don't know, HHS, whatever it's called. They got all these health organizations. I don't know which one's which one anymore. But Bobby Kennedy getting rid of 10,000. We're starting to see some real effort there. The mainstream press wants you to believe it's nothing. I'm here to tell you it's a whole lot more than nothing. It isn't enough, but it's an incredible start, James.
No matter what this administration does, the so-called mainstream press, and thank God, I mean, they have been eviscerated. They have been rendered to be totally ineffective. Everything in full array, every bit of power they could muster was aligned against Trump, and he just steamrolled Kamala. The so-called establishment media now is completely irrelevant. New media is not taking center stage. New media is center stage now. And through social media and live streaming and these digital networks, it's just supplanted them, and for good, and good riddance. But yes, I mean, there's nothing that this administration is going to do or could do or will do that is ever going to get any sort of recognition or not even praise,
even
but just
fair,
objective
honest play
coverage.
For that matter.
Exactly, just objective coverage. It's just not going to happen. But yes, this is good that these buyouts have occurred, and I wish it was more. But even again, you go back to some of the people on the right who are just contrarians with regards to anything Trump is doing. It's what yesterday was tax day. It was April 15th. That's less than 3 months since he had been in office again.
But 22,000
you're
calling it quits. I love it.
You're not going to gut the federal government in 90 days, the bureaucracy. I'm not talking about the functional parts of the government that you actually need, but I mean just heavy-handed bureaucracy where basically leftist ideologues just get government jobs and pensions for life as rewards. The right certainly doesn't reward its people like that, but they should. In any event, it's only been 3 months. Let the man work. Let the man cut. And I like these cuts, and I like these people taking buyouts. It's a good start. That's all it is. But it is that.
It's a good start. And again, this is where we need to celebrate right when it's right. Celebrate, standing against wrong when it's wrong. This is kind of the deal. Do I wish it was 44,000, 88,000, whatever? Absolutely. Does it compare to the 80,000 IRS thugs that Biden and clowns hired? No. But it's a start. And if we the people push for more, it can be more. We the people need to get involved. By the way, diversity, equity, and inclusion, whatever that is, DEI stuff, it's being challenged, but you're being lied to in the mainstream press. I've got details. We'll talk about them in seconds with James Edwards, thepoliticalcesspool.org, an award-winning talk show in its own right. And yours truly, syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network. Spread the word, share the love, lovingliberty.net. Hang tight, more in seconds on your radio. We talk DEI in seconds.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. Accusing Maine of violating the federal Title IX statute, the Justice Department is taking the state to court. Maine is targeted for refusing to ban transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports.
This is about sports. This is also about these young women's personal safety. I've met many of these women throughout the past weeks and months, and what they have been through is horrific.
Attorney General Pam Bondi, a presidential executive order bars transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports. Federal judge ordering sworn testimony by Trump officials regarding efforts to return an illegal alien mistakenly deported to his native El Salvador.
In a Tuesday hearing, the Maryland judge said Trump officials defied a Supreme Court order to facilitate the return of Kilmar Abrego Garcia. The U.S. and Salvadoran governments each said they were unable to bring back the man, but the judge dismissed those statements as two very misguided ships passing in the night. The Trump administration claims Abrego Garcia is in the MS-13 gang, but his attorneys deny the allegations. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Discouraging news for veteran Democrat Senator Chuck Schumer in a new survey. It comes amid speculation he could face a primary challenge.
More than half of respondents to a new Marist poll of New Yorkers say it's time for Schumer to give up the role of Senate Minority Leader and pass the torch to somebody new. 45% said the 74-year-old Schumer should remain in the position. Among Democrats, about half say Schumer should remain in his current role. 48% say it's time for him to pass the torch. Schumer has faced growing criticism from within his own party for not doing more to oppose President Trump and the GOP majority. Bob Agnew reporting.
Wall Street in the red this hour. The Dow is down 104 points. The Nasdaq off 306 points. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Financing a home, especially in today's market, is one of the biggest decisions you'll make for your family. Work with a mortgage company that puts you first. I do. Work with a lender founded on biblical principles like do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. I do. It's Mike Gallagher for the only mortgage company I've used for almost a decade now when financing or refinancing Fellowship Home Loans. I'm friends with the owners, Mike and Brian. I even have them on my show occasionally. I know the care their team puts into every single customer. I can personally tell you that it's a smooth, stress-free process, and that's due to Fellowship's level of service and expertise that puts you in the right loan for your family and your goals. There's a reason Fellowship Home Loans is flooded with 5-star reviews. Whether purchasing a home or a cash-out refi to consolidate some higher interest debt, you can trust Fellowship Home Loans. Start the process. Make the call. 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-MIKE, 800-510-6453. Fellowship Home Loans, mortgage lending by the book.
Nationwide Mortgage Bankers, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS number 819382.
Isn't this great? Just the two of us. No work, no interruptions, no phone, no TV. Finally, we have a chance to just talk. I mean, how long has it been? Well, first of all, we should talk about your schedule. There are a few things that could use some adjusting, but overall, I think it's going all right. Basically, I think we're doing a pretty good job of communicating, which is good. You're doing a really good job of letting me know how you feel about things. I want to keep the lines open, if you know what I mean.
Jerry? It's 4 o'clock in the morning. What are you doing?
Oh, I was just giving Emily a bottle.
Who are you talking to?
Emily.
She's only 3 weeks old, and she's asleep.
I know. I was just practicing.
Family. Isn't it about time?
Isn't this great? Just the three of us. No work, no interruptions, no phone.
From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Step into the boots of the American West with Range Magazine, where grit meets grace. This is a front row seat to the stories, struggles, and triumphs of ranchers, farmers, and stewards of the land. From jaw-dropping photography to no-nonsense reporting, Range brings you the untold tales of life on the range. Whether you're a city dweller with a cowboy's heart or living life where the pavement ends, Range speaks to the soul of the West. Subscribe today at rangemagazine.com.
This is a battle between truth and deceit, a battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness, and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like Gavin Newsom in California is going to sue the Trump administration over tariffs. So there you go. California broke as all get out. Suing the federal government broke as all get out over tariffs. And the sad part is Congress is leaving Trump out to dry on this. If Congress were to back President Trump on the tariffs, there'd be no support for any kind of lawsuit by Gavin or any other thug out there. So that's just my take. Back to the issue at hand. Disney, Kohl's, and other woke government/partner private companies are disguising their DEI schemes. Joseph MacKinnon with the Blaze over there doing a great job highlighting this. By all appearances, normal advocates for getting rid of DEI have been really standing up boldly, and they've successfully demolished much of the DEI corporate regime. However, the details can be quite deceiving, ladies and gentlemen. Consumer research now has highlighted a new report. That's the trend of big companies publicly suggesting that they're ditching their DEI initiatives, policies, programs, language, etc. But it's all smoke and mirrors. Yeah, it's all games. What are they doing? They're just changing the words. It's the same racism, the same belligerence, rebranded. Okay? In other words, it doesn't change anything if you rebrand it, but that's what they're doing. They're just rebranding the term, pretending they're ditching DEI, and it's a big lie, James.
Yeah, well, I mean, anytime something falls out of favor or becomes really, I mean, it has been ordered to be discontinued. It's practically illegal. They are not, these government-funded institutions are not allowed to be continuing to give race-based, I mean, truly racist incentives, and rather to go to merit-based, which is what any decent person should want. But when anytime something like this happens, and I don't care what it is, whether it's prohibition or whatever, it's going to go underground. It's going to continue to some extent. It's going to be shrouded. It's going to be concealed a little bit. But I think, and it's difficult to stop that everywhere, every time. So it doesn't surprise me that some of these multi-billion-dollar transnational companies are trying to cloak this in another way. However, I think it's still moving in the right direction in so much as the Trump administration has made it harder and has gone after this, and it's
good on Trump for doing it, by the way. This is not an attack on Trump. What this really is for the American people to realize that, hey, Donald Trump's provided proper leadership. These companies continue to undermine, and it's time for us to shop with our dollars and put our money where our mouth is. Jettison Disney. Jettison these clown shows that are basically pretending they're ditching DEI, but they're really rebranding and playing games. Call them to account. Vote with your dollars, people.
All that's true, but I think, again, the good part about it is he has made it harder, and it's not done
good on him.
DEI. It hasn't done DEI initiatives any favor. This administration has not done them any favors. It has taken them out full cloth in many places, and in some places it's at least made it harder and less available.
And good on him
It's all good. It's all good.
I'm just telling you right now, just so you know, though, they're just basically rebranding and lying to you. And that should offend most Americans.
Oh, sure. But, I mean, I think that a little bit of that should have been expected, or maybe even a lot of it with companies like this. But, yes.
Yeah, I don't think most people know, though.
Interesting
story.
They're
jettisoning it, and they need to know that a lot of it's a lie. And
no, that's a good observation.
And double down and back President Trump, and let's have Disney realize, hey, it isn't just Trump. It's we, the people, that are demanding this change. Trump's just leading the charge. As they say, Trump says they're not coming for me. Really, they're coming for you. And he's right about that. Anyway, All right, Blue Origin's in the news. Jeff Bezos and crew. Jeff sent Katy Perry and his fiance and all these other, it's an all-female cast, supposedly to space. Blue Origin's all-female space mission that happened on April the 14th, 2 days ago, is receiving harsh criticism all across the spectrum. Several high-profile figures joining in on the ridicule and more. Here's the deal, James. As far as I understand, they went 62 miles up to space. I can't remember the term. It's this line that they have that where you're now in space or whatever.
Technically,
and it went up,
yes.
and it went up, and it went down. So 124-mile trip took 11 minutes. They were in space, maybe 4 minutes of it at best, and they act like it's a huge win. It's nothing but a clown show, James. Whole thing's just nothing but, in my opinion, propaganda.
My wife was reading this the other night and was laughing about it, and so I got a little bit of the information from her. So what it was, Gayle King and Katy Perry and this whole crew.
That's right.
I mean,
and Jeff Bezos' fiance Laura Sanchez, right?
Well, who was flying it? I mean, that was Katy Perry flying the spaceship. I mean,
dude,
basically, it was a tourist attraction. They
Totally.
signed up for a
rich
tourist
people.
attraction. Yeah, it's a rich person, and we saw what happened, with the Titanic, rich person tourist activity. But nevertheless, it is something that if you have enough money, you can pay to do. And I think what the narrative is, these are some great explorers now. This is like Lewis and Clark, this is because they got into this commercial spaceship
And they're
and
pitching
went
it as
up and
all
went down.
female, and it's girl power, and it's all this other stuff. Here's my
See,
question, though, James.
All they did was sit in the thing and let somebody else fly. I mean, it is a cool story to tell. Hey, I technically went into outer space. I mean, yes, it was the lowest level you could possibly qualify as being out of the atmosphere. But, I mean, that's a cool story. If they want to
Shouldn't
get
we
in the
be
news
flying
and
people
say,
to the
hey,
moon by now, though, James? I mean, come on now. Anyway,
well,
I'll
if
tell
it
you what
hadn't
I
been
find-
for diversity, we probably would have been on colonized Mars by now. We had discontinued space exploration in the 60s because blacks were upset, frankly. I mean, this is the truth, that money was going to that instead of welfare. And so, that was a big hit to
But then
to
they
NASA.
put some
But-
black female people in charge of the space program and gave them a bunch of credit for a lot of it, too. That's all, propaganda and a lot of it. But here's my question. On that one trip, on that one flight to space, 11 minutes, I'd like to somebody do a comparative study. Just say compare James Edwards' family, him and his wife, and 3 kids, James?
3 kids.
And compare your whole family environmental footprint to that one 11-minute mission on the toll that it takes on the environment. Because I assume that Katie, flew on a plane to even get there to go on this thing, right? Et cetera, et cetera. The whole environmental comparison. How many years could James's family live on that 11 minutes that Katie took? And where's the environmentalists to go ballistic?
Well, that's a great point. But I got one more. When I was, before I started the radio show, before I got married, when I actually had money, a little bit of money, you had more disposable income before you get married and have kids. I think anybody could agree with that. But
spend it wisely, but that's another topic.
Well, I mean, you at least have stories to tell. So in 2002, I had run for a seat in the state legislature. I lost, but it actually eventually got me into radio. That was in 2004.
So you really
so 2003,
won, but I know what you're saying.
Well, exactly. But in 2003, I didn't have anything to do. Like, I'd spent all of 2000 on the Buchanan campaign, and then 2001, I was gearing up for my own race, which lasted all of 2002, and then the radio show started in 2004. But 2003 was like an interesting year where, I was just looking for stuff to do. And I went out and learned to fly. And I got a private pilot's license, and I was flying these little Cessnas, these 152s, 172s, the smallest things you train on. But it was very cool just to be able to sit in a plane and take off and land by yourself. I mean, learning to fly is just a very cool thing. And I think that's actually more notable than sitting in, they basically got on an airplane and took a flight with somebody else piloting it. And the media is doing this girl boss narrative that they actually did this themselves, but they didn't. And so I don't really understand the twist, and it's just so transparent. They paid a lot of money to do a rich person's tourist activity, and they're being held as like some sort of pioneers in space exploration.
Let me tell you what it's
Just
designed
nuts.
to do. It's designed to derail your thought and have you focus on clown show stuff. And you miss this criminal referral sent to the DOJ
Okay. Yeah.
accusing Letitia James of fraud. WND.com with the piece. New York Attorney General Letitia James, that's the clown that went after Donald Trump so hard, has been referred to the DOJ for potential prosecution. What for? For falsifying mortgage documents, James. And it's going to the DOJ, and we're going to see where this lands now. So Letitia gets what? Her turn?
That is the state attorney general for the state of New York, and she is absolutely one of the worst and most despicable people on the planet. I mean, she is most famously known for going after Donald Trump, but she also went after my very good friend, the former editor of Forbes magazine, Peter Brimelow, and basically put them out of business just over very gray area stuff that shouldn't have been anything at all, but they just bled them dry through lawfare. Never charged them with anything, but just kept mounting up fees.
I'm looking forward to Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and President Trump and everybody else to hold these people to account. Ladies and gentlemen, this lawfare's got to stop. Anyway, we'll talk about it more in seconds with James Edwards on your radio.
This April 19th, you're invited to a powerful celebration of American courage and independence. Join the Utah Society Sons of the American Revolution for a special event honoring the shot heard round the world, the moment that launched a revolution. Gather with us at the Utah State Capitol from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. for a morning of inspiration, remembrance, and patriotic pride. Experience a ceremonial wreath-laying, hear live readings and historic reflections, and witness a black powder musket salute that echoes the bravery of our forefathers. Whether you're a student of history, a proud patriot, or just looking for a meaningful way to honor the past, this event is for you. Admission is free and all are welcome. Come celebrate the spirit of 1775 and the birth of American freedom. Visit UtahSocietySAR.org for full details. Let freedom ring. April 19th at the Capitol.
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
So we were talking about the Trump administration, the Trump Justice Department, going after some of these criminally corrupt bad actors that have been going after the president and conservatives for years, putting people, good people, friends of mine that I know personally. Peter Brimelow was once the editor of Forbes with the Wall Street Journal, and is just a great guy. I know his wife, I know his family. They ran the America First Immigration Reform webzine VDare. Just a wonderful person, and they just got lawfared to death to where they had to basically shutter the business. And that was Letitia James, never charged with anything, never charged with any wrongdoing, but they just kept filing. They just buried them in legal
and that's
fees,
where I really think we need
so,
accountability for that, though. You know what? Letitia needs to go to jail for this. Where does she get authority to just lawfare people into the ground without evidence, without authority, without proper, checks and balances, without, how does this happen? The J6ers are in the same boat, right?
Well, at least they got pardoned, but their lives are still ruined in many ways.
That's right.
In many ways. And Peter's wife, Lydia, who is friends with my wife, she was on Tucker Carlson to talk about the lawfare that Letitia James had put on them. But again, she was doing it to the president too. And this is something where conservatives could learn a lesson from the left. And I'm absolutely being serious about this. You have to go after them with equal fervor. Now, there is one big difference. When they go after people like the Brimelos or they go after people like Trump, and these are just two examples, all the J6ers, I mean, it just tens of thousands of people have been the victims of corrupt, politically motivated persecution. But in these cases, almost to a man, they really didn't do anything wrong, and they certainly didn't do anything wrong to rise to the level of the things that they suffered as a result of this lawfare. Trump was completely exonerated. No wrongdoing ever found there in any of these cases. And so the right, the conservatives, Republicans, whatever you want to call them, they need to go after these people. These people are actually engaged in what I think is a crime, to falsely go after people, to punish them because they think differently than you. And you could say, well, if the Republicans respond tit for tat, we're just never going to have any healing in this country. Well, let me tell you, you're never going to have healing in this country. You can't. You cannot. It will not happen. You can only have a sort of high trust, fully functional society if you are of one people. We are many squabbling nations, all at each other's throats, and we don't share the same culture, the same faith, the same language, the same heroes, the same holidays, the same racial backgrounds, everything that makes a people work well together. We have none of that in common. And this whole thing, I know people say it was never true. Now it's almost laughably untrue. Diversity is our greatest strength. Diversity is a weakness. We can respect each other from afar, but occupying the same living space with people who are just so fundamentally different, they don't agree on anything. How does that make for a cohesive society? So I don't think the Republicans...
When we talk about diversity, too, it's okay to have diversity in thought, in opinion, in belief, in understanding, in recommendations, in...
We have that diversity here, Sam, today.
Right. That's my point. And that's okay. But diversity that pits people, when does diversity end and when does the communist intentional divide begin is what people really need to be asking themselves. And I'll give you an example to make the point. Sarah Palin's in the news, James. She's back in court to once again make her case that the New York Times libeled her back in 2017. Now, are you familiar with this case?
No, I'm not. But you better tread lightly.
Check out this detail. As the jury was deliberating the first go-round, so this is the second shot she has at this. While the jury was deliberating in the first go-round, the judge, Jed S. Rakoff is his name. Okay? While the jury was deliberating, Judge Rakoff dismissed Palin's claims, but did not inform the jurors. He said, I'll just let them go ahead and finish, and when they're done, I'll just circumvent what they come back with. He said he would let them keep deliberating, and then he would basically set aside their verdict once it was reached. Now, why isn't this judge in prison, James?
There's a lot of judges that need to be in prison, Sam. A lot of judges.
You can't just let the jury continue to deliberate and then say, I've already negated what they're going to come back with. Who the heck do you think you are? But that's what they did, and now Sarah Palin gets a second stab at this thing. The problem is, James, it's literally 8 years later.
Well, hey, what is the old saying? The wheels of justice grind slowly, but
they grind so
fine.
slow you can't tell they're grinding, buddy.
8 years for a simple defamation of character or libel complaint. At least when I was routed in my libel lawsuit, it happened relatively quickly, within a year and a half. But and that was going all the way up to the Court of Appeals. But interestingly, I mean, Sarah Palin's probably in for a rude awakening on this. That is another thing. And boy, don't I have some knowledge about this, where in my libel case, it actually met the textbook definition of libel, and we still lost. Peter Brimlow, I just mentioned him. This is another separate incident. But in addition to the lawfare that we mentioned a moment ago, he had also sued the New York Times for libel because they had referred to him as a white nationalist. And not only did he lose, and again, this is a separate event from what we were talking about that put them out of business, he was ordered to pay the legal fees of the defense. So not only can they libel you, if you challenge them on it, you're going to lose in a court like New York. Now, maybe in a rural red state court, you might have a chance. But if you are taking this to Manhattan, a Manhattan jury or Manhattan judge in New York, and that's the newspaper of record. Well, I think Palin's going to end up being on the hook.
Going, and why doesn't she get a jury of her peers in Alaska? Why would it be? I mean, these clowns in Manhattan have nothing in common with. It's not a jury of her peers at all, James.
Well, I mean, she's suing. Yes, I mean, she's suing the New York Times. They're based there, so that's where it's going to be. But she's going to end up being on the hook for millions of dollars. Not only is she not going to win, she's going to pay.
I pray it's not true. I pray you're wrong, but I think you're right.
And if mine hadn't been so black and white, at least I only lost. If my case hadn't been so black and white for me to have been alleged that I was the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, which is the textbook definition of libel, completely just ludicrous, fraudulent accusation by this newspaper in Detroit. But if it hadn't been just so clear-cut, I mean, I could have been made to pay damages because these courts are, hey, you think people who are hardcore leftists, when they put on their robe, they just put aside their personal preferences and biases, and they're just going to stick to the law no matter what? No, that's not how
they're
these
engaged
courts
in
are
lawfare,
out
and
of
it's got to
control.
stop. All right, good news before the end of the hour, James. Look who's joining the team at Salem Media Group, townhall.com with the piece. Salem Media Group announced a significant partnership with Donald Trump Jr. and Laura Trump. Salem acquired a 30% stake in Donald Trump Jr.'s, I think it's called MXM News, which is a news aggregation service or whatever. And they entered a long-term partnership with Salem. And I guess it turns out that Trump invested in Salem, too. James?
Well, I mean this when I say it. It is good that people of like mind help one another. It is good that they team up together and support one another. And, it's interestingly, Donald Trump Jr., of course, we were talking about this yesterday, Sam. Let's not forget that Media Matters, which is universally recognized in the controlled press as being like the arbiter on what's going on in the media. And, of course, they're just a leftist Soros funded. I mean, that's not hyperbole. I mean, he funds them. I mean, it's his thing. But they had written.
Yeah, we the taxpayers probably fund them too, but yeah.
Well, that's right too. But I mean, it was basically his initiative at the start. But Media Matters wrote in 2016 that our joint interview of Donald Trump Jr. on this network made us one of the, and all the media attention that stemmed from that made us one of the, I think, as they put it, top 20 right-wing media fixtures responsible for Trump's nomination in 2016. So now that the good times are rolling, maybe some of that will trickle down to the little guys.
Anyway, Trump says he's excited to grow the audience of Salem. And I'm excited to help grow their footprint. It's pretty cool, in my opinion. Great news. It's something, and again, the new media continues to take center stage, James.
It's good news all the way around. Good for both of them. I'm happy to see it. There's nothing more to say. It's good to see, and it will continue to solidify and lock out the so-called legacy press from doing the damage that they've done to this country for so many years. It's all of this is good news.
Well, it's interesting. Everybody wants their own piece of the pie now. I mean, I was the first to this. I was doing this, folks, back in 96 when I bought a radio station and owned it for 10 years. And then I started Liberty News Radio, and it's been going since 2009. Everybody wants a piece of the media. Even Donald Trump Jr. now has his separate MXM News service. That's separate from Trump's Truth Social. That's separate from Elon Musk's X. That's separate from Mark Zuckerberg's whatever. From everybody wants a piece of the pie. Bloomberg, everybody. This is where we're all gaining ground, though. I mean, this is what it takes. I've been saying this is what we've needed for years, James, and now it's coming to fruition.
And hopefully it will continue to advance and evolve, and more good things will come from this, because the media and having responsible, serious commentators like you, Sam, frankly, setting the standards for professionalism is needed. The media is an important part of the political system, and it's good to have honest media. And you've got it right here on the Liberty News Radio Network.
And ladies and gentlemen, it's fine to agree, to disagree, agreeably sometimes. Okay, James and I don't agree on everything perfectly. I mean, he's right like a broken clock. No, I'm just kidding. See how that goes, folks? You can devolve quickly. But why can't we stand up and say James has every right to his views, as do I? And that's okay. The American people need to think what they support, right? All right, thanks for being alongside for the ride. Liberty News Radio, lovingliberty.net. Spread the word, share the love. We the people, along with the grace of the Almighty, can and will restore our grand old republic. Thanks for being alongside for the ride, lovingliberty.net.